Hello? Dude, Lian Li dropped a new case. On my way. Lian Li dropped a new case? Yup, this is the Lian Li O11 Vision Compact. Tell me about it. So the O11 Vision Compact is a collaboration with PC Master Race, aka PCMR, and it's a smaller iteration of the O11 Vision. So let's go ahead and talk about the exterior. So from the factory, it's going to ship with this mesh panel, which can be swapped out for an included glass panel so you can put it into showcase mode. And I'll go ahead and show you guys that in just a bit. On the side, we've got a glass panel. We've got glass on the front. The back is kind of a combination of solid and mesh. So fans and or a radiator will sit on this side so it can get fresh air. And then our power supply sits on this side so it can get fresh air. Then on the rear, we've got ventilation for rear fans. More down here, we've got our PCIe slot covers. These are the screws for the drive caddies. This is our power supply cavity, which actually sticks out a little bit, which is really interesting. This is where our motherboard sits. We've got a cable pass-through right here. And this is another smaller little panel as well. Then down at the bottom, we've got these little feet that elevate it slightly to let fresh air into the system. Then the front also kind of has the same design. Then we've got our front I/O over here. We've got a headphone jack, got a USB Type-C port, 2 USB Type-A, and then our power button is up here. And it's got this little trapezoid design around it that lights up. So let me show you how to remove all these panels, and then we'll talk about the inside. Okay, so I've got the majority of the panels removed except the front glass panel, because Lian Li says there's really no need to remove it during regular assembly. But if you did want to remove it, there's those 2 silver screws down there. You can take those out. Then there's some screws on this side, and then you remove this panel, and then there's screws under this panel to release the front panel. But didn't really seem necessary, and I think the build's going to be easy enough with the front glass intact. So that's how I left it. So this case will support up to eATX size motherboards under 280 millimeters, and it will also support back connect ATX boards. So that's what all of these cutouts right here are for. So on back connect boards, all of the motherboard connections are on the back for a really clean look. But for our regular motherboards, we do have these grommets going all the way around. Here's some pass-throughs down here. And then we do have this little removable grommet where our CPU power cables will pass through. I like how it's really small. That should look really clean. And then down here, we have our GPU sag bracket that Lian Li includes. So that is adjustable up and down, but not side to side. So depending on your GPU, this may or may not work. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be using this just quite yet. So we'll see. And I'll show you more about that once we go to the back. And then one more grommet that I should definitely talk about is this large one up here. So basically your AIO pump passes through this grommet and it goes down to your CPU. And then the tubes for it feed through there over to your radiator. So you basically won't see the connection for your radiator tubes going to the radiator. So it should give you this really clean look. And I'll show you that more during the build and then after. But it should look really clean. I'm excited to see how that works. So let's go ahead and talk about fan support. So I have the bottom bracket removed, and it does need to be removed in order to mount radiators or fans to it, but it will fit up to a 360 millimeter radiator or 3 120 millimeter fans. And the same goes for the side, up to a 360 millimeter radiator or 3 120 millimeter fans. And then same for the top panel when it's in mesh mode. Then the back will support two 120mm fans. And then for this case, you want these side fans to be intake, bottom fans to be intake, and rear fans to be exhaust, and then the top fans to be exhaust for some nice positive pressure. So I think that does it for the front. So let's go ahead and move on towards the back. So because this is a collaboration between PCMR and Lian Li, we've got this little stamp back here on the swinging door. And if we swing it open, we can see there's a magnet at the top, at the bottom, and then also one more at the bottom on this side. So you can fully swing it open, then you have access to everything back here. And then when you're done, you can close it and then you can't see any of your cables. If you want to remove it, you can swing it open and then just pull up and out. And you can mount 2.5-inch drives to this, or Lian Li says this is good for mounting fan or RGB hubs too. So let's go ahead and leave this out for now. And then speaking of drives, we have these two drive caddies down here, and you can mount 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives inside of them. And you can remove both of them if you want to. We've got this little thumb screw right here. So let's take this out, put this to the side, and then we're just gonna pull up and inward. So you can mount your drives with these outside and then put them in, or if you want, you can remove both of these caddies for the most room possible. And it doesn't look like something is missing with the caddies taken out. It still looks really clean. So I'm not gonna be using any kind of drives for this build, 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives. So I may leave these in, I may leave these out, I'm not sure yet. So when I first got this case, I thought this PSU mount was really interesting because it actually sticks out about 15mm. And then I thought about it, the PSU is gonna sit back a little bit further in this bracket. And because it sits a little bit further back, it's gonna leave more room for cables on this side because it is a more compact case. So they gave us just a little more wiggle room with all of our PSU cables. So I thought that was cool. Very interesting design. And then for cable management, we've got these brackets right here and these Velcro strips. So Lian Li actually suggests all of your power supply cables go through these large brackets. So like through here and through here, and then all of your smaller cables go through the Velcro strips. So we'll have to see how that works once we get to cable management, but that's really interesting. Then we also do have one more Velcro strip down here. Then they made the front panel cable connectors white, which is awesome because I love when you get a white case and all of the cables are black. I'm glad they stuck to the white theme to make it as clean as possible. And this case does have a unified front panel connector that is white. So that's really clean and no fiddling with all of the individual connectors, which is always a pain. So this is our GPU sag bracket, and there's this little thumb screw right here. So if we loosen this, this can go up and down. So let's go towards the front. So depending on your GPU size and where it sits, you can move this up and down. So basically what you do is you'd hold this up with one hand, then you'd probably have to reach around towards the back and then tighten this one thumb screw. And I don't think this is gonna work with my build. I'm not 100% sure my GPU is gonna work with this mount. So you can remove it if you want to. You just back out this screw like you're adjusting it. And then there's one screw right there that you can take out to fully take the GPU sag bracket out of the case. So that's cool. And then this side bracket is reversible. So like I was talking about earlier, you can mount your fans to it and your radiators to it. But if you want to, you can reverse it for kind of a completely different look and different scenarios. So let me go ahead and show you how to reverse that, and then we'll talk about it. So with this side bracket reversed, you can see it gives us much different positioning for a side mounted radiator and fans. And I think this scenario will be really good for people running a really thick radiator and a set of fans, because a longer GPU is going to sit about right here. But with the bracket in this orientation, you have much more depth for that larger radiator and set of fans, or maybe even some kind of push-pull setup so you can fit the fans on each side of the radiator. So I thought it was really cool how they included this, and I thought it was really cool how easy it is to flip the orientations with just this one thumb screw. So the last thing I want to talk about is how to switch from mesh mode over to showcase mode, aka vision mode. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that and talk about it. So we are now in vision mode with the top glass panel. And if you noticed during the transition to vision mode, we actually removed the pillar that goes from the bottom to the top for support. So because that's not there, Lian Li actually used this mounting key where the top and the side panel magnetize to the support key, and it aids with support and it helps with fitment and alignment. And with the side panel back on, we can see that the fitment looks really good. All of the panels are supported, and it's actually hidden behind this triangular silk screen. But I think it's finally time for the build. This build is gonna be sick. Agreed. Now get out of my office so I can work my magic. Aye aye, Captain. See you in a few. Is the build done? Yup. Come check it out. Say less. Bro, that looks so good. Tell me about the finished build. Thanks, dude. I'm super happy with how it turned out. So let's go ahead and do a little walk around of this bad boy, and then we'll get into it. All right, so let's get all of these panels off and then start talking about the build. All right, so first thing we got to talk about is the AIO and the tubes going through this grommet towards the back, which leaves us with this really clean look because we don't see that connection with the tubes and the radiator. And then Lian Li suggested the tubes be on the right side, but when I tried that, there was some unevenness in the tube length and it just didn't look as good. So I tried it on the top and you can see they're really even, and I was able to use some Velcro strips to make it look even better. And the connections for the AIO are now on the left side, which I thought were going to be a little bit difficult to manage, but you can see I routed them behind the tubes. So from this view we can see them, but from the normal viewing angle we can't see the AIO, all the cables for them. There's a PWM and a USB, and those are placed behind the tube, so super clean. And now we have a clear view of our AIO as well. So I love that. So originally I wasn't going to use this 90-degree adapter, but I'm glad I bought it because A, it looks really clean, and I know I don't have the side glass on, but the GPU is very, very close to the front glass. So without that, it may have been hard to route this the 16-pin cable for these NVIDIA GPUs. So be mindful of that if you're going with this case, that an adapter like this may be useful. So that's really clean. Overall, it's just an absolute beautiful build. I'm so happy with this. And I didn't use the Lian Li sag bracket. It interfered with my USB 3.0 header. It's going to be a little bit difficult to show, but it interfered with that, and it actually just didn't work with my GPU. It would have hit my furthest right fan, so I didn't use it, and I actually used another Lian Li one. We can kind of see the bracket right there. So the GPU is nice and even, and there's no sag at all. And I used a level, and it was perfectly level. So super clean. It ended up working out perfectly. All right, so let's take a look at the back. Very clean looking. And then even when we swing this out of the way, Did my Dancam signature cable management back here. And it came out really well. Actually better than I thought it was going to be, because this case is compact, like the name says. So cable management might be a little bit tricky for some people. And then most of my cables are down here, including all my fan cables. And I already have the screw for this taken out, because I wanted to show you that my fan controller and all of the cables are actually in the rear caddy. I kind of just jammed them all in there. I know it's hard to see. And I'm not going to remove it because I don't think I'm going to be able to, but everything is jammed in there. And I do think it's kind of funny how the PSU sticks out a little bit. And I definitely understand why they did that. Give you the most room possible on this side. So let's take this out. And then let's look at our AIO tubes going through this little piece right here and then up towards the radiator. And as you can see, I'm actually doing a push-pull setup. There's definitely enough room to do it. You could probably even fit 30 millimeter fans on this side if I wanted to. But that looks really clean. I love the tube connections up here. They give you that little routing hole right there for your tubes. Then they go through the grommet, and it just looks so good. So really happy with the cable management. This part definitely took me a while, like always, but for me, worth the extra effort. What's in the build? The CPU is an AMD Ryzen 7950 X3D, and that's being cooled by a Lian Li Galahad 2 LCD 360mm AIO. The motherboard is Gigabyte's newest X870 Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7 ICE, which looks fantastic with this build. We've got 64 gigabytes of Team Group T-Create RAM at 6,000 megatransfers per second. Under that heatsink on the motherboard, we've got a 4 terabyte Samsung 990 Pro. It's an NVMe. The GPU is a Strix 4080 Super. The 90-degree adapter is from Easy DIY Fab. And like I said, came in clutch for this build. All of the fans are Lian Li SLV2s, but the bottom and the front ones on the side are reverse blade, while the rear are regular blade. So we have a nice uniform look across all the fans, and the airflow is correct. Got intake on the bottom, intake on the side, and exhaust on the rear. And then for our pushing fans on the radiator, these are just the regular blade. And obviously these aren't showing, but in true Dancam fashion, I have the regular blade ones, so we see this side of the fan too. And the power supply is a Superflower Lead X7 1300 watt. It is platinum for that clean power, baby. And then I did all of my custom cable management wraps with Velcro strips. It takes a lot of time, but like I said, it is worth the extra effort. Final thoughts? Love the case, loved building in it, love how it looks. I would give it a 10 out of 10 and would do again. And this is actually going to be my main rig. You can see we have a blank area over here. So this is my main rig. I transferred my NVMe over here, and we're going to be rocking and rolling with this one for a while because it just looks absolutely fantastic. Love the top glass, and unfortunately I didn't have time to test it with the top mesh panel, but this is the route I wanted to go because I just think it looks the best. But thermals are good. The CPU and GPU I have both run really cool, but under benchmarks, the CPU got up to 73 degrees Celsius, and that's using OCCT for my benchmarks, and the GPU got up to 67. So fantastic, even with the top glass panel, and I'm guessing it would be a couple degrees cooler with the top mesh panel. But love the build, think it looks fantastic. Lian Li is always coming out with something innovative with their cases, even though this was just a smaller iteration of the regular Vision, but they added some new features, and I just think it is a step in the right direction for PC buyers. and things just keep getting cleaner and cleaner. And I love the direction we're heading in. But if this is a case that you're interested in, I would check it out, see if it's right for you. And yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like the video, comment what you think, and I'll see y'all in the next one.